Hello everybody, it's BYG Agami back with another video. I'm going to be doing a review for episode 12 of Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS, so let's just jump right into it. The first thing I loved about this episode was how much information about the plot we got. We got some answers, but we also got a lot of seeds planted, such as Revolver stating after the way that Yusaku was telling him after he delivered that final blow, he's like, 3 reasons why I must win. What's his name's like, Revolver's like, could Playmaker be? And then of course it ends off very similar to what they talked about in the previous episode with Dr. Kogami. He said something like that and then just cut off, or well rather it was the Soul Technology chess pieces regarding that. They were thinking, could it be Dr. Kogami? So I just like that, but also I love how VRAINS is like, they're still setting up stuff, even though it's the first, 15 episodes haven't even occurred yet, but they're just still setting up stuff that's going to be answered later on throughout the series, which I really do enjoy. And the thing is, this is probably the best episode for VRAINS so far, simply because like usually when I'm watching VRAINS I like look at the timestamp, I go through my phone, you know, sometimes I get bored, this, that. Not once. I actually wanted to watch more. Once we see AI or I get his body back and he actually gets out of the dual disc and he shows off his body and they're not impressed at all, and that's the ending portion of the episode, I was kind of like, what? Like, I thought there was like a few more minutes left. Like, this episode really drew me into VRAINS and I really did enjoy it. I'm hoping that more episodes are like this. And you know, there's so many things to talk about. The way that Revolver was defeated, I think is somewhat reasonable, even though like the way he lost was kind of, I don't know, it was just kind of bad. But at the same time, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the reasonings that Yusaku gave, the 3 reasons why. You know, the thing that happened 10 years ago, he was part of the missionary mission, or something along those lines, which is basically a secret mission that he was part of. And then, what's his name, Revolver states, oh, you're doing work for Soul Technology without even knowing it. And of course that's when he loses. So there's something greater about Soul Technology that we don't know about. I'm getting a lot of Iliaster vibes. These people, they're not people to mess with. They're saving something. There's a seeker behind them. And the more information that comes out about Soul Technology, the less, in my opinion, the Knights of Hanoi are becoming intimidating. They're not scary, I would say. They're doing stuff reasonably, but at the same time, they're doing it through a negative way. So when I actually came back to life and he was essentially like about to chew up Revolver, he ate the program, and that's what allowed him to get his body back, because through that. Now we see Revolver's arm is actually cut off. So what does that mean? Is he an AI? Is he a humanoid, whatever they call it, like just some sort of man-machine type of thing? Or could it simply be just the AI itself in you know, his virtual reality character? Because we did see him in episode 3 how he was a human. So he possibly isn't an AI. That's just some wild speculation I'm saying right now. Of course, with more information coming on the future episodes of VRAINS, and then that information is going to get, you know, touched upon. So we're just going to have to wait and see. One other thing I did love about this episode was, you know, some Akira and Aoi, just them sort of seeing each other. And Akira was very worried. He thanks Playmaker. He goes to the hospital. He gets a tip from, he assumes it's Emma, probably is. He goes in there and he starts crying, and he cares for her. Now, of course, from Aoi, we see that she's somewhat of a character that in the real world is, I wouldn't assume depressed, but she's just sad. We can assume that she's lost. And then in Link VRAINS, she's happy and, you know, just not fearful. She doesn't care, I would imagine, what other people think. And she's just outgoing as a character. Now, the thing with Akira, when she just wakes up into the bed, and Akira's looking at her, and he starts crying, he starts saying, you know, hi, this, that, just sort of saying hi to his sister. It lightens her up. Now, that's good. This episode, I think, was just well written. I think everything about this episode, actually not everything, of course the duel was somewhat lacking, but just everything about the plot itself was just wonderful. I mean, there was somewhat humor to it when AI comes out and shows his body. Like, he comes out as this very buff, just Brock Lesnar-esque just body, and then all of a sudden we see him and he's not actually that buff, he's more so skinny. And then in the preview for episode 13, I'm just going to touch upon that. I don't do preview breakdowns anymore, even though I could probably do one for this, but I'm just going to do it in the review anyways. So we see Emma. She's at the hot dog shop that Kusanagi owns, and then she's right in front of Yusaku. So what does that make me assume? That makes me assume that Emma possibly knows who Yusaku is just from the information. I mean, she is a person that seems like she has a lot of, like, as she gave, what's his name, Akira tips, she most likely knows about stuff that possibly Yusaku doesn't know about. She knows people in the higher ups to get information about Yusaku, so maybe that's where she knows Yusaku's identity. I don't really want her to know Yusaku's identity. I wanted to be a little bit ambiguous, a little bit, you know, not touched upon yet, because they only know about the thing that happened 10 years ago, which I'm so hyped about. Like, I'm just excited. I really want to figure out what's going on with VRAINS. I think that, you know, that's probably the only thing that really is, if VRAINS does turn into a route where it's just bad, which I don't think is going to be the case, but there's like, well, let's say like 5 to 6 episodes, just complete crap episodes, and they still touch upon the whole thing that happened 10 years ago, I'll still be drawn into that just because I love that whole plot line, that storyline. But regarding Emma, I think that Emma isn't going to figure out about Playmaker. Maybe she's somewhat curious and she goes to the hot dog shop, or maybe it's going to be like Yu-Gi-Oh! Where, oh, fate brought me there, which I don't think is going to be the case, but I'm just wondering. And then of course that's where they start dueling. Now, I'm gonna assume this, right? I'm gonna assume that Yusaku just completely destroys and murks Emma in that duel, because I don't think there's a challenge from her. Now, of course, we have yet to see her duel, but if Yusaku was, of course, pushed up against the back, he was pushed up against the wall and he barely defeated Revolver. If he was able to defeat the leader of the Knights of Hanoi, then I don't see Emma being a threat, because, of course, when she saw Revolver, she didn't know who he was. She saw the powers that he was able to do. She was very confused. She didn't know what was going on. She didn't even know about the data storm and what it could do. So, you know, with that lack of information that she has, I'm gonna, you know, just guess that she possibly isn't that good of a duelist and more so a spy, more so a person that just gathers information. Maybe she's dueling Yusaku because she probably knows that she's gonna lose because of what she saw. Like, she was the only one there. Of course, Soul Technology, the chess pieces, along with Ignis and Kusanagi and Akira, were able to see because of the thing that Emma had, the camera. But maybe she's doing that just to get more information about Playmaker himself, which I could see happening. So let's talk about the thing with Akira Zaizen. Oh, this is pretty interesting, alright? So Soul Technology's like, yeah, Akira Zaizen knows too much information. We need to get him out. And they talk about a replacement. I totally forget his name, but we'll probably figure him out in the next episode or something like that. And it looks like Akira's gonna lose his job, which kind of sucks because in some way he's like Kaiba. Of course he's not as in-depth as a character as Kaiba is and hasn't went through the struggles, because, you know, when you put Kaiba against any Yu-Gi-Oh character in terms of struggles and what they had to go through, Akira comes up short. But it seems what he worked so hard for his life is taken away. I want to see how he reacts to this. I think that's good, even though it sucks. Like, honestly, like, it kind of sucks, like, from that point of view, like, man, he worked so hard, he lost his job, but I want to see how he bounces back to this. And I also just want to see what happens to Revolver, man. Like, just the fact that he lost it, and he most likely is the person that told him about those 3 lines about, you know, Yusaku, 3 lines, this is how you get through life, look at it in 3 ways, etc. If that's the case, then that'd be so dope, because it just proves that they have a connection. And the biggest, like, how do I say this, the biggest plot change, or not plot change, rather just, you know, plot twist would be that Revolver, the leader of the Knights of Hanoi, is the person that gave Yusaku guidance. The best, well, probably the best guidance he's ever gotten. The way to look at life in 3 ways, which honestly would be just so cool. So, I don't know, there really aren't any negatives about this episode that I have. I think possibly the only negative is how Revolver's taken out. But still, Dr. Kogami, Revolver's father, talks about how, were you shook because of what he said that happened 3 years ago? And of course, Dr. Kogami talks about in the location of the Knights of Hanoi that fate is scary, because if that's the case, then he knows about Yusaku, and that'd be so cool. And this is what I'm guessing, right? I'm guessing that Dr. Kogami, Revolver, Spectre, whatever relation Spectre has, we don't know yet, but I'm guessing that they got excommunicated from Soul Technologies. They were working on this project and they saw what bad Soul Technology was doing. That's why they're after Ignis. Maybe they need Ignis for some sort of thing. And they take the 5 other AIs. I think there are 5, yeah, there's 6 in total, or 4, sorry if I forget, but the 5 other AIs, and Ignis is a sole survivor, and maybe they're trying to do it for good, but the way they're executing it is bad. It's in the bad route. It's not some way that, you know, Yusaku along with the Charisma Duelist, the good guys, would take it, but it's just the way they have to do in order to achieve their goals. Maybe this is something that's just very important that possibly depicts the whole fate of Link VRAINS. I don't know. I do like how he's a man of his word, Revolver. He gave him the AI information, the release program, even though he didn't have to. And another thing I really did enjoy is I don't know, like, I somewhat think that, I know this is kind of out there, and I talked about this earlier on in this review, that maybe he is an AI program, or like some sort of, you know, man-machine type of thing, where he's a cyborg or something like that, where his arm got cut off and all this electricity was coming out, and that looks like a machine, but at the same time they're in VR, okay? So maybe in the real world he is a human, or I don't know, it's just strange. But at the same time, AI, Ignis himself, does have emotions. He is a AI of free will, and I'll touch upon that and then I'll end this review off. AI himself, Ignis, he talks about how he has free will, and Yusaku and Kusanagi were talking about, does he live or not? And I don't know what they're talking about that. Like, are they talking about how he's a program and how programs sort of run on like battery or machinery? And is it just that he has life, like he has free will, he could do whatever he wants? He is alive to a degree, and I think that's what they're trying to get off at. If that's the case, then we're going to figure out more information about that, and that's a little cool plot line for Ignis. And there's just there's so many things. So for Akira Zaizen, we have him trying to come to face with the whole thing on him losing his job most likely, and there's a new person in line for Link VRAINS, and he has to deal with that, which is one plot line. Kogami dealing with soul technology, Revolver trying to get back at Yusaku Fujiki and trying to capture Ignis. That's a second, 3 plot lines for, of course, the father and then the son. Playmaker, get his memories. Kusanagi, probably help out his brother. Ignis, we know about, of course, Ignis is just trying to hide. He has some sort of motive, as what Revolver stated. Ignis is trying to conquer Link VRAINS, so I wonder if he's also a snake in the grass. So that's going to be interesting. Emma, I don't know, I think Emma right now, her motives are okay. It's somewhat like a secondary character, where of course she's a main character right now, but her motives are okay. They're decent. They're not grand. It's just figuring out who Playmaker is, stuff that, you know, just random Joes do, even though she's a main character to a degree in VRAINS thus far. So we'll see what she does. I want to see something about her where it's important to her life, something that happened years ago, or something that's just not like low tier motive, somewhat mid tier to high tier, I would like. And also the chess pieces. They are the reason for what happened 10 years ago, I would assume. So I want to figure out what happens with the chess pieces. And honestly, I don't know, like, I think they could probably push out material for the next 3 years about this whole thing about the chess pieces, but at the same time, I'm hoping it's just the arc, because I can't wait that long, right? I'm not waiting 3 years to figure out about the chess pieces, even though I'm gonna have to, but I just want them to knock out this stuff, man, the chess pieces, Revolver, etc., and just then move on to a new chapter, move on to a new arc, which is possibly not gonna happen. Maybe they're just gonna keep on building up on the chess pieces, and that's the main thing for VRAINS. I don't know, but please do comment your guys' theories down below, etc. Check out the Facebook and Twitter fan page regarding Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.